Johnny, Are You Queer by Josie Cotton. Josie recently released her new Pussycat Babylon album, and she's back on Revenge of the 80s Radio now to talk about it. Welcome back, Josie.
Thank you so much, Chris. It's good to be back.
I'm glad to have you back. Pussycat Babylon is your third album in the last 5 years, and the first since the rather intriguing Invasion of the B-Girls from 2007. But you've said that Pussycat Babylon was the first real Josie Cotton album since the 80s.
It's the first completely dance-orientated record with a very new wave feel at moments. I was wanting to do something that was reminiscent of that era for my fans who've been so insanely patient with all my experimentations in music.
We had a lot of fun with those experimentations, though, especially with your 2006 movie Disaster music. It sounded a lot like the B-movie soundtrack songs, but there was a little bit of the dance aspect to it, but more of the sort of new wave rock to it. I thought I would have considered that more of a Josie Cotton album as well.
That record was described in a completely different way than I'd ever been described, and I was happy to go into another direction with my vocals and just more of a dreamy kind of James Bond feeling record. So, but I'm glad that there is a connection between all of them. I think it's important, and I'm afraid sometimes I leave my fans really questioning what the hell I'm doing because I don't know often. So this record is really for my fans, and it's really a record that you can dance to every song, even the ballads. I was trying to make it reminiscent of Roxy music when they would have music that was obviously sad ballad, but you could dance to it, and that's going on in this record as well. It's if you don't listen to the lyrics, you don't really know what I'm either trying to say, and sometimes it's better that you know nothing of what I mean and just listen to the music. And, that's definitely the situation with this record.
Speaking of lyrics, Josie, your first track, Calling All Girls, seems to be something of a trip through your mind, sort of a tour through your creative genius, I'll have to say. The lyrics were about kittens piloting spaceships, dressing up as a sexy X-ray technician, dating movie serial killer Michael Myers. Tell us a little bit about you, Josie.
Well, it's funny. It started off like most of my songs. It's just a melody and then words popping into my head. But it turned into really me wanting to communicate with young girls. My niece at the time was being taken in a lot of directions. I'm sure a lot of girls were at the time. She was very into Paris Hilton. It was such a superficial way for a girl to go. I was worried about her, and then this became not through my own wanting it to, but it just became my communication with girls. And as much humor as there is in it, and even risque kind of comments, I actually mean a lot of the things I say in it. I was trying to communicate something to girls. It's hard being a girl in this culture, and to not get ridiculously distracted by being feminine and running after boys, and to find who you are without all the stereotypes. So that's a rambling answer, but that is what my intent was at one point along in the songwriting. But thank you for your compliments. It's very sweet.
Well, your non-musical influences seem to shine through in this song in particular, and throughout the whole album. And I'm talking about what we talked about last time when you were on Revenge of the 80s Radio, the science fiction movies, the old classic B movies. A lot of elements of that were tossed in throughout the album as well.
Yeah, I can't seem to escape the B movie culture and everything it's represented to me. Even this new video I just completed actually today, the final edit I saw, it's like a B movie from Japan, and there's a lot of sci-fi references. I think I'm just damaged, Chris. I don't know. As a kid, they were my buddies, the monsters, and we talked about that before. They just run around in my head, and I find it amusing. It amuses me to talk about it, and makes me, happy to let them live through me in a way.
Other tracks on the CD, like Everything's Oh Yeah and Recipe for Disaster, also All I Can See Is the Face of Bruce Lee, have a lot of that classic 60s, 70s B-movie flavor to them as well. How important are these non-musical influences to Pussycat Babylon? And going back to our first question, why do they help make this a real Josie Cotton album?
I don't even think those influences were in my first records. I was a pretty straight-ahead pop artist, and there are fans I have who remember me in that way and want me to be forever and to continue in that tradition. I think my personal idiosyncrasies snuck in eventually, and they have to do with, one, my obsession with Bruce Lee, because I do think he was the most amazing creature, and his movies were so amazing to me. Even before I knew what an impact he had on Kung Fu, after watching these documentaries, he actually changed the whole face of that martial art. And it sounds like a joke, and I'm kidding, but usually when I'm kidding, I'm also serious. And with Recipe for Disaster, it's kind of a dark angle on almost like a vampire, and she's enjoying her reign of terror, and that was fun to express in song without having to be that terrible person. And I like expressing things that don't necessarily come into my life, but it's kind of like a few series of movies going on that record. I think when I sing, I think of myself as a character. Even when I'm writing, I don't think of myself as me, and so that's how I'm able to say the ridiculous things I do, and it's a lot of fun for me.
Josie Cotton is my guest. Straight ahead, we'll talk more about her new Pussycat Babylon album and an exciting Josie Cotton contest on Revenge of the 80s Radio.